At 9,000 revolutions per minute, most engines tear themselves apart. It's a place where physics becomes brutal. Piston speeds approach biblical forces, valves struggle to keep pace, and oil turns to foam. It is the absolute mechanical limit. Yet for a brief, glorious period, one company made this their signature. Honda didn't just build engines that could survive at 9,000 RPM. They engineered them to live there. This is the story of the engine philosophy Honda was forced to abandon not by a single law. To understand 9,000 RPM, you have to understand what's happening inside the machine. Piston speed is the real killer. In a Honda S2000's F20C engine at 9,000 revs, the piston travels up and down the cylinder at over 25 meters per second. That's faster than an Olympic sprinter. The forces trying to rip the connecting rod from the piston are astronomical. Close the valve fast enough before the piston comes back up to smash it. And lubrication at these speeds, the oiling system has to work flawlessly to prevent catastrophic failure. So how did Honda do it? It wasn't magic. It was an obsession with detail, born from their Formula One experience. They used lightweight, forged internals, pistons, connecting rods, and crankshafts, strong enough to withstand the immense stress. The key, of course, was VTEC, the variable valve timing and lift electronic control system. It was genius. At low RPM, the engine ran on a mild camshaft profile for efficiency and smoothness. But cross a certain threshold, and oil pressure engaged a locking pin, switching to a high-lift, long-duration cam profile. The engine's personality would split. This philosophy was perfected in icons like the B16B from the Civic Type R, the B18C in the Integra Type R, and the absolute pinnacle. The F20C held the record for the highest specific output of any naturally aspirated production engine on Earth, making 120 horsepower per liter. It was a masterpiece of lightweight reciprocating mass and high-revving capability, a testament to what was possible when engineering was prioritized above all else. The very things that made these engines magnificent also made them a target. From an engineering standpoint, building them was incredibly expensive. For a mainstream company like Honda, questions began to arise internally about the cost versus the long-term reliability for hundreds of thousands of customers. An engine designed to live at the red line is, by its nature, less forgiving than a low-stress conventional motor. Then came the regulators. In Europe, standards like Euro 4 and Euro 5 clamped down hard. High RPM engines are inherently louder, and at the top end of the rev range, they can struggle with emissions. Cold starts were another major hurdle, as regulators penalized engines that ran rich when warming up. Suddenly, the high-revving VTEC scream was becoming a legislative headache. The final pressure point was the market itself. The rise of turbocharging changed everything. A small turbo could deliver a huge wave of torque low down in the rev range, making a car feel effortlessly quick without needing to be thrashed to the red line. From a business perspective, the choice was clear: a simpler, cheaper, torque-wire turbo engine made more sense for warranty costs, fuel economy, and mass market appeal. The high RPM, naturally aspirated engine was becoming a niche within a niche. So was the 9,000 RPM engine actually banned? No, not in the literal sense. There was no single law passed by a government that said, "Honda, you cannot build this." The reality was a slow corporate and regulatory squeeze. It was a death by 1,000 cuts. The S2000, the final flag bearer of the 9,000 RPM era, ceased production in 2009. Its replacement never came. When the legendary Type R badge returned on cars like the Civic, it was now powered by a turbo engine. The red lines dropped from 9,000 to 8 and then to 7. They had voluntarily stepped away, choosing to adapt to a world that no longer had room for their most extreme creation. And with that, an era ended. We lost the naturally aspirated scream, that incredible transition when VTEC engaged and the engine took on a second life. A new turbocharged Civic Type R is objectively quicker around a track than an old Integra Type R, but they feel different. Less mechanical. Less raw, less special. Paraphrasing the words of the engineers who built them, these engines were about the connection between driver and machine, a challenge to be mastered. The reward wasn't just speed. It was the experience of pushing a perfectly balanced mechanism to its absolute limit and hearing it sing. Today, we have more power and more torque than ever before. Our cars are safer, cleaner, and more efficient. But as we look back at the giants of that golden age, the B18C, the F20C, we have to ask ourselves a question. Did Honda abandon the greatest engine philosophy ever built, or did the world simply move on?